Welcome to Lesson 4 in our study in the Gospels as a part of the Prophecy series. Today we're going to continue on with Jesus' teaching from the Synoptic Gospels in which he talked about his second coming. Now, if you would remember, for the people who were with him at the time, they didn't realize that he was talking about his second coming. They thought that he was going to come and establish the kingdom then. So today we're going to continue on because if you remember, we looked at what he said the current situation was. In Lesson 2, we looked at the time of trouble. And then in Lesson 3, he talked about his coming and what it would be like. Now, as we continue on into the Gospels, we're going to see that he gave some additional teaching. We're going to see that in Matthew chapter 24, verses 32 through 44, Mark chapter 13, verses 28 through 37, and Luke chapter 21, verses 29 through 36. And it's the fig tree, or the teaching of the fig tree. So let's take a look at this together. We're going to start off first with the lesson from the fig tree. We're going to see in Matthew chapter 24, verse 32, Mark chapter 13, verses 28 through 32, and then Luke chapter 21, verses 29 through 33. He's going to talk about the lesson from the fig tree. Now, what he first does is he talks about the example of the fig tree from the verses that we've mentioned. So notice with me Matthew chapter 24, verse 32. Here's what we see Jesus saying. From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts out its leaves, you know that the summer is near. Listen to what Mark chapter 13, verse 28 says. From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as the branch becomes tender and puts out its leaves, you know that the summer is near. Now, let's take a look at Luke, chapter 21, verses 29 through 30. Here is what Jesus said. And he told them a parable. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they come out in leaf, you see for yourselves and know that the summer is already near. Now, let's take these verses, let's take what he's saying here and try to focus in on what he's trying to tell us. Now, this has reference to what he's already taught us about his coming. So he's going to give us some additional teaching. So here's what I want you to see. First of all, Jesus calls his disciples to consider the natural course of life for a fig tree. So think about a fig tree. That would be normal in their life. Fig trees were very prevalent in Israel at that time. They would be very much a part of their understanding of the cycle that would take place with the fig tree. So here's what we see. As soon as the tree becomes tender and puts out leaves, you will know summer is near. So there's a certain thing that happens with the tree, and as soon as it puts out its leaves, people will understand, hey, summer is coming. Summer is here. Now, when we look at Matthew chapter 24, verse 33, Mark chapter 13, verse 29, and Luke chapter 21, verse 31, we're going to see the present application. We're going to see what does this looking at the fig tree have to do with right now. So I want you to notice what Matthew 24, verse 33 says. So also, when you see all these things, you know that he is near, at the very gate. Now, let's look at Mark chapter 13, verse 29. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Now, let's focus on Luke chapter 21, verse 31. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that the kingdom of God is near. All right, so let's take a look at these three verses. They're basically saying the same thing, although Luke gives us a little bit more of an understanding about being at the very gates with reference to the kingdom. Let's take a look here and what's going on. So likewise, when the disciples see the events he mentioned, they will know that the kingdom is near. So just like with the fig tree, when you see it bringing forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So when he talks about when you see the things happening, especially with reference to what's going on in the first section of the three lessons that we looked at with regards to what's happening currently, you know that the time is near. You are aware. And in fact, I'm reminded of the book of Daniel where it says that the wise will understand. Basically, that as we move towards that coming, as we move towards Jesus coming, those who are aware of what the scriptures teach will have an understanding and they'll see that the kingdom is near. Now, he's going to talk about them and where they're at right now. So look with me at Matthew chapter 24, verse 34, Mark chapter 13, verse 30, and Luke chapter 21, verse 32. He's going to talk about that generation. So here's what he says in Matthew 24, 34. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass until all these things take place. Look with me at Mark chapter 13, verse 30. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass until all these things take place. Very similar to Matthew. Let's take a look at Luke. Luke chapter 21, verse 32. Truly I say to you, this generation will not take place until all has taken place. Now, there's some discussion about this and some various viewpoints about it, so we're going to take a look at this. So let's see what's going on here. Jesus stated that present generation of Jews would witness what he's describing. That's the reference of that generation. This statement reflects a near and far fulfillment of his teaching. Near and far fulfillment. A lot of prophetic material has a near fulfillment and then right now, but also a far fulfillment in what will happen later on. So when you look at what he's saying, so going back to most of chapter 24, talking about what it's going to be like in the present, what it's going to be like in the time of trouble, what it's going to be like in the end. What is he talking about that they're going to witness these things? Well, he's talking about the events that are going on and what will be relevant to them. So the word generation refers to both those who are living at the moment and those within their future lineage, those who would be in the future. So he's speaking of the destruction of Jerusalem and the future coming of Christ. So when he talks about you're going to witness these things, what is he going? He refers all the way back to the beginning of his discussion when he says, not one stone will be upon another. Then he talks about what it will be like presently, rumors of wars, pestilence, and all of that. When it talks about the particular things of the troubled time and the second coming, that's not what he's referring to. He's referring to the things right now. And so for that present generation, yes, they would see that. But it would also be true that they would see those things in their future lineage as well. So a near and far fulfillment. Now, let's talk about Matthew chapter 24, verse 35, Mark chapter 13, verse 31, and Luke chapter 21, verse 33. And what we're going to see now is the surety of his words. We're going to see the assurity of what he's saying. So Matthew 24, verse 35, heavens and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Mark chapter 13, verse 31, heavens and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Simply a repeat of what we saw in Matthew. Luke, same thing. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. So here's what I want you to see. Even if all things pass away, and they eventually will, the words of Jesus will not pass away. So even in all of what's going on and all that we know, even if it all passes away, Jesus' words will not pass away. They will be for sure. Now, let's talk about Matthew chapter 24, verse 36, and Mark chapter 13, verse 32, and that's the knowledge of the timing. When will this take place? Now, here's what I want you to see, and who knows it. Matthew chapter 24, verse 36, but concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. Now, let's take a look at what Mark chapter 13, verse 32 says. But concerning that day or that hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So here it is, it's talking about who has knowledge concerning when all this is going to take place. When will the second coming take place? So here's what I want you to see. Jesus points out that only God the Father knows when his coming will be. No one else knows. No one else can make the prediction. So I think about all these folks who make predictions and claim dates. No one knows exactly when this is going to take place. Only the Father knows. And we know that to be true. Why? Because when we get to the book of Revelation, we're going to see the one who is on the throne, the Ancient of Days, the God who is in control, God the Father. And he has a scroll, and he will bring forth the scroll of his judgments for that time of trouble. And he'll ask who is worthy to open the scroll. And no one will be found except one, who is Jesus. And when that happens and the scroll is open, then the events of the tribulation, the troubled time, will take place. But nobody knows when that will be. And here Jesus is making the point that the timing will happen when God the Father says it will happen. He's the only one who knows. So if we continue on, we're going to notice now in our next section, Matthew chapter 24, verse 37 through 44, Mark chapter 13, verses 33 through 36, and Luke chapter 21, verses 34 through 36, we're going to see the call to vigilance. The call to vigilance. Now, here's what I want you to notice. Here's what we're going to see in Matthew chapter 24, verses 37 through 41. It's the suddenness of the coming. So what we're going to see here is it's going to happen suddenly. It's going to catch people unaware. So notice what the text is going to talk to us about. So when we focus in on chapter 24 of Matthew, verses 37 to 39, it's going to talk about it being like the days of Noah. So it's going to refer back to Noah and the flood. So here is what Matthew records in chapter 24, verses 37 to 39. For as were the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark. And they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man. Now, here's what we're going to see. The coming of Christ will be like the coming of the flood in Noah's day. So it's going to be like the flood. So yes, there was Noah. He took all those years, decades to build the ark, but people laughed him off and just kept on doing what they were doing. And they were going about with life. And then all of a sudden, before they knew it, the flood came and swept them away. It's going to be the same thing. In our world, life is just going to go on. And that's what Jesus is describing. It's going to go on as normal until all of a sudden here comes the coming. So life continued as normal as Noah entered the ark. So basically, that's what he's describing here. People were totally unaware of the coming judgment until the flood came. They were totally unaware. They had no expectation. What do you mean a flood? What are you talking about? So life will continue as normal as people are unaware of the coming of Christ. In fact, the longer we are here in our anticipation of his coming, the more people will begin to think this is ridiculous what you believe. It's not going to happen. So they're not expecting anything. Now, here's what we're going to notice when we get to Matthew chapter 24, verses 40 to 41. We're going to see the whole issue of those who are taken in judgment. So I want you to notice with me what Matthew 24, 40 to 41 says. Then 2 men will be in a field. One will be taken and one left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken and one left. Now, these verses are often used to describe the rapture. So people who hold to a view of the rapture, whether it's a pre-trib view but specifically those who have a partial trib viewpoint, they'll point to these verses and they'll say, this is what's happening here. It's talking about the rapture. It is not talking about the rapture. The word taken refers to someone being taken in judgment. Now, when we talk about the rapture, we're not talking about somebody being taken in judgment. We're talking about them meeting Jesus in the air and being transformed in the resurrection to the new person that they are by being given a new body and being with the Lord forever. Here, the word taken, the word is being used, often is used with reference to somebody who's taken in judgment. So when we come to the end, there will be 2 people. One will be taken in judgment. So Jesus is describing where 2 are present and one will be taken in judgment at his coming. That's exactly what we're looking at here. So then that brings us to Matthew chapter 24, verses 42 through 44, Mark chapter 13, verses 33 through 36, and Luke chapter 21, verses 34 through 36. And it's the whole issue of being ready. Be ready. So notice now with me what Matthew 24, 42 to 44 records. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not let his house be broken into. Therefore, you must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at the hour you do not expect. So we need to be ready because we have no clue when he's coming. We need to be ready. Here's what Mark says. Mark chapter 13, verses 33 through 36. Be on guard, keep awake, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey when he leaves home, puts his servants in charge, each one with his work, and commands the doorkeeper to stay awake. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and find you asleep. Notice now what Luke records in chapter 21, verses 34 to 36. But watch yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the cares of this life. That day come upon you suddenly like a trap. For it comes upon all who dwell on the face of the whole earth. But stay awake at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that are going to take place and to stand before the Son of Man. All right, so let's take a look at these 3 different sections of verses describing basically the same thing, giving the same teaching in different ways. Let's talk about what's happening here. So here's what I want you to see. Be on guard and awake, since you don't know the time of his coming. Basically, Jesus is saying you and I need to be ready, period. Because we don't know. We don't know when he's coming. Well, George, he's been so long. No, I understand, but that doesn't mean he's not coming. Be ready. Be on guard. They are to be watchful as servants who have been given duties while the master is away. That's what I want you to see here. As servants who've been given responsibilities, who have to one day give a report, you and I need to be watchful. Be ready, since you don't know when the master is returning. Look, folks, he's giving you a lot of ideas and things to look for and things to be aware of and things that kind of tell you that he's coming. But you don't know exactly when he's coming. You don't know when he's returning. The return of Christ will come upon them, and they should not be found asleep. And we're not talking about that you and I are in bed and then Jesus comes. We're talking about being asleep metaphorically. That is, we're not looking for him. We're doing other things. We're distracted. We're spiritually asleep. That's what he's talking about. We need to be ready because we don't know when he's coming. So that really brings us to the end of this lesson concerning the fig tree. However, there is some more teaching here in the Gospels. And that's what we're going to focus on in our final lesson next week when we look at the additional teaching that Jesus gives concerning his coming.